I got to step into my power so that I can empower more women who were struggling just like I was.
So earlier in my career, I wish somebody would have told me that not everybody wants to see me win. Not everybody was going to be by my side. I had to learn to be my biggest cheerleader, to be the person to go out there and step out of my comfort zone and do new things, try new things, because not everybody is going to be supportive.
Guess what? You're not in it alone, because there's tons of women out there that are struggling just like you, who want to be there to support you.
Hi! Hey everybody, welcome back to my show.
It is not your show.
My show. It's my show.
Okay.
Today's my guest, Pantin.
Pantin. That's actually what he calls me.
Away.
Welcome everyone back to You Were Meant for More. This kid had me laughing right before we went live. I go, stop, we're going live in like 2 seconds. Anyways. Oh my goodness. Thank you so much for being here. I brought in another phenomenal guest, and I know my audience absolutely loves him, and he's all right. So I definitely wanted to share with you all the opportunity for me to interview him now, where the first show, episode 1, kicked off with him interviewing me. And so our topic for today, behave, is your health matters. And so he's going to take you on his own journey of depression, anxiety, and the struggles that he went through throughout his life, because obviously we all experience life differently. And so without further ado, let me welcome my son, Brandon Kamei. Welcome, son. How are you?
Hey-o, good to be here. Fantastic day. Weather's amazing. It is really hot outside. That's why I'm inside. Thanks for joining me on my show. And so my guest today is
Miss Pantin
Ayala. And we're going to dive into some crazy questions today. Figure out where it all started. All right. No.
Yeah.
That's my little introduction. She was laughing because I was quoting stuff from Shrek.
Yes.
Such as, yeah, play the movie. That one. And he huffed and he puffed and he signed the eviction notice.
Okay.
Just
so,
little quotes, little movie quotes, never hurt anyone.
One of the things is like...
My throne.
You all know that he's always having me laugh, right? I mean, obviously you see our videos. For those that don't know us and are new to who we are, this is us all the time. So we quote a lot of movies. And so like right before the video played, the intro video of what I go, and he's like, yeah, play the video.
Yeah, play the movie. It's my childhood.
Okay. So, all right, we got to stop. I already knew it was going to be a riot with us. So anyways, so definitely wanted to bring you in because we can laugh and we can talk all things funny. We love comedy, obviously, you can tell. But I wanted you to share everything that you've been going through, or that you've gone through actually, to bring you to who you are today. I was just like telling, I did a live prior to this to kind of share about the show, and, told the audience about your own personal struggles of depression, anxiety, and all the things in between. Mm-hmm. So let's start from the beginning, shall we?
We shall. Sounds good. Sounds like a plan. The beginning of 28 years.
I know. So, where did you grow up? What made you really want to become who you are today? I mean, I'm sure you had phenomenal parents.
Well, I got to give it all to my dad, honestly. I got to really put it out there. I'm just kidding. So,
okay, another thing.
Women's empowerment. You were meant for more. And I'm over here saying it was my dad. No, I'm just kidding.
My God.
No, my mom, of course, played a huge role. My mom and my grandma. Where it all started, I was born in Monterey Park. And kind of, now that I think about it, I lived in a lot of different places. It was Monterey Park, it was Montebello, Alhambra, San Gabriel Valley for 14 years, Pomona, Wausau, and yeah, a bunch of different places. And so I kind of moved around all growing up. In school, I wasn't the brightest, but I did love making people laugh, and I was kind of the class clown. And it's so funny. The teachers would move me around different parts of the classroom because I would be friends with that whole group that was next to me. So they would move me, and I remember teacher telling me this. They would move me to another part of the classroom because I didn't know anyone there. And 2 days in, I got to know everyone there, and I was making them laugh and having a ball. She would move me, and so I would get to know those people. So, yeah, you couldn't really put me in a classroom anywhere where I wasn't gonna, I don't know, say a joke or two. But no, school, it was tough for me, and I will say I didn't really put my head down and be like, this is what I want to do. I just felt like school wasn't for me. I knew I wanted to do bigger things. I knew I was going to work hard, and I was going to go that different path, such as like an entrepreneur path to go down, and really chase after it. But I didn't see it. Mm-hmm. I did go to Pasadena City College for a little bit, pursuing business, and then even had the conversation with my mom and my dad and said, hey, I don't think I'm going to do college. They're like, if I'll find something you like. And I was like, all right, well, business, sure. And I sat in there for a bit, did some acting classes, thought I would do that. And, ultimately it just wasn't for me. And so I knew I wanted to do bigger things in life. I just knew curriculum or learning history or like science wasn't like, it just didn't do it for me. I just did it because, we got to do it, you know? So that's some of the basics.
And for those that don't know, sorry, I have my hair blowing everywhere.
Grizzly Adams did have a beard.
For those that don't know our story, that are new to us, he loves to tease me about like, oh, how did you become this amazing young man? He's like, well, my dad. And so he's always doing that to like get a reaction out of me. And I'm just like shaking my head, like, but I love that. I mean, his dad was very supportive in his life. And, when we talk about it, it's like, I grew up as a single mom. Of course I was a single mom, but, I had a lot of support from my family, and, his dad was always around, and he went from house to house. And so share a little bit about how that, I just kind of, like my audience is very transparent, very authentic. I'm very authentic with them, and I share things. There's really nothing to hide, but it's like, just recently, I remember asking you, like, what did you get from growing up in two different households? I know you were the majority of the time with myself and grandma, but, like one of the things, like, because again, as a parent, as someone who's evolved into a lot of personal development, myself, like I went back and I remember telling you, I'm sorry for the things I did that I didn't know, right?
I didn't know. 19 and you didn't have it figured out, huh? We couldn't be living in a mansion by 25? No? All right.
I did my best.
Of course.
And so, but one of the things you did, thank you. One of the things you did share was that, and I want you to be open with that, is just how I was, like, I would get mad. So I led with my emotions versus your dad. He led with more logic. And
so that dynamic.
Yes.
All right. Two different households. I was mainly, I think about this a lot because I think about it for my future kids and like how I want to raise them and what worked for me and why it kind of all paired together. Number one, I will say across the board, both on my mom's side and my dad's side, I have very loving and supportive family members, like across the board. Like the foundation, yes, my dad, my mom, my grandpa, my grandma, and I'm lucky to have that. So I'll lead with that. In everything I ever did, always supportive, always like, hey, so what's the news and whatnot. So there's that. Two different households. My dad was very like logical, very structured with when it came to like schoolwork and stuff like that. So it was two different dynamics. Going into my dad's, it was very much you go straight to the table, you do your homework while he makes dinner, and if you finish homework at a certain time, like before bed, basically you would have that time, which usually was an hour or whatnot. Or if you were me, I did not pay attention. It was like, yeah, there you go. You got 5 minutes to play. so because homework just took me longer. And so that was his dynamic. And then you go to bed. We went to bed early because we had to wake up early and stuff like that. My mom was very more on like the fun side. Like when I went to her place, like we watched shows, we watched movies. And I mean, I'm tell her now. I mean, even though I told her before, and she would always ask me, "Did you finish your homework?" I said, "Yep." No. It was just sitting in my backpack, and I was like, "I'll do it tomorrow morning." Like, no. She's like, "You finished homework?" But she was also like busy working and doing her thing and trying to figure all that out. And so I was like, "Yeah, I finished it." But I just really wanted to watch TV and stuff, which is so interesting because at my dad's, I never really turned on the TV unless we were like watching a movie all together, just because that wasn't the dynamic there. In regards to schoolwork, if I got bad grades, my mom led emotionally and was very mad that I didn't have good grades, even though I was saying I was done with homework every single time before I came home. My dad very much was, all right, well, this is what it is. These are the steps we need to take to get it better. And so anytime I was failing or had bad grades, I would go to him because it was like, okay, he has a solution on how I can better this. And yes, it takes the person, the individual, to want to better their grades, themselves, whoever. So I would go to him. Definitely not my mom. And I was like, yeah, she's not seeing this. There's no way. I'm like, you kidding me? I'm not going to be able to watch TV or whatever the case. I'm like, is she going to take away my Nokia? I just got my phone. I had to press it 3 times to get A. I was like, A, are you awake? No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, so those were the different household dynamics. And then through all that, I mean, I played sports and stuff like that. I played baseball. But yeah, I think it all balanced each other well, like with both sides. And at the end of the day, just support.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm glad you shared. Like, again, it's like, you know, we get to understand how we evolve and how we become the person we are today through who raised us, what experiences we went through, what belief systems, who conditioned us to think a certain way. And so, you know, I get that. I understand that. And like back then, I mean, I was 17 when I had you, you know, 19 when you were 2 years old.
Excuses. Didn't have it figured out. No house yet. No golden retrievers.
No white picket fence.
Nope.
And so, yeah, I just, you know, it makes sense. You know, that's how, like, you know, because you look back and I think about how I was raised. So like, if we got into trouble, if we got bad grades, if we got this, if we got that, we always got yelled at. And so that was like the condition that I had was like, oh, yell, because you didn't know any better, you know? And so it was funny because I remember even thinking like, oh, anytime you had a project done, or due, I was like, call your dad. Like, we got to get your dad on the phone for this. Cause it was just, you know, he was very, you know, he was really smart and, you know, analytical. And I feel like, you know, that was like his, obviously his strength, and mine was very like, creative and supportive and loving. You know what I mean?
Creative, supportive, loving. I mean, and like I mentioned before, you made sure I got to experience things. You took me on a lot of different experiences. You made sure I went on every trip in school. As far as the field trips, I mean, I went to Washington, D.C. in 8th grade and stuff, which you came on as well. You're like, I got to see it too.
I mean,
and so
it's history. He doesn't remember anything about it, by the way. I loved it.
Not at all. So she made sure I was able to do all of those things. Thus, that's why when you saw, or whoever follows her, saw that when we went to New York, that was kind of returning the favor for all the things that she had sent me on, because it was like, hey, thank you for allowing me to experience this. New York was a place I always wanted to check out, and she wanted to take me at one point in time. I just didn't want to fly. I was like, I don't know about that. And so, excuse me. But for Christmas one year, I ended up surprising her with a fully paid for New York trip. I think we went 6 days, 5 nights or something like that. And we checked out just about everything you would want to see on a first time visit to New York during the Christmas time. So that was great. So yeah, that was.
Can you not cry on my show, please?
I was like, be emotion. Yeah.
No, I was honestly blown away by that trip. Yeah. New York was always something I wanted to do with him. And, you know, through everything that I've gone through with the business and so forth, and building and building, it's just like, man, I didn't get a chance to go with him yet. And then when he surprised me in December of 2022, right? Yeah, 2022, and it was just like, I opened the card and like, it's funny because if you see the video on Instagram, you'll see that I'm kind of already emotional. It was only because I had read the card ahead of time to see like, you've done so much for me. You've taken me on trips that I'll always remember. And it's like, it's all about memories, right? It's about experiences, because that's what people remember the most. It's the way you made them feel versus like, the different things, you did for them. It's just, when I read that, I was like already in tears. And then it's like, I didn't even get to, you're like, keep going. I'm like, hold on, let me catch my breath first. And then I continued to read and I was like, oh my God, where are we going? And then you played.
Frank Sinatra.
And it was so funny. So imagine being emotional and then having to listen to a song to find out where you're going. And then so I'm listening. I don't know if you see my lips kind of moving. And I'm like, oh my goodness, New York. And I just started bawling. And he got that all on video. And if you hear it, listen closely, he actually cried too. And I was just like, oh my God.
Just a tad. I don't cry.
You do too. But it's rare, but you do. And so, so I was really like, it was a really emotional and heartfelt moment for us both. And so I'm grateful. And again, I get tons of compliments on you. And again, I'm I don't take all the credit. You had amazing people to look up to, through both sides of the family. And so grateful for every single one of them that got, the opportunity to raise you as a child. So that's a little bit about us. So let's fast forward to, you obviously growing up, you did baseball, which, oh my God, I was so bummed. I mean, for someone being in love, I'm the only one in my family that is a baseball fanatic. Like I don't, I'm not that crazy, but I love baseball. Baseball is my sport. And I put you in at 5 years old and you got hit by a ball and you're like, I'm done.
Yeah, I was like, no, I'm good. I like the soccer ball. You got to kick that around. Like, yeah, you can get hit by that, but it's not a freaking hard ball.
Yeah. So yeah, unfortunately, and I wasn't one of those parents that were going to say, no, you're staying in and you got to finish. I did make him finish out the season because we already committed. But after that, we looked into soccer and he played soccer for like 6 years, right? You played soccer for about 6 years.
5-6 years.
Yeah. And so, I just, I was so bummed. But I mean, when he hit high school and he told me he was going to join baseball, I mean, you should have seen me. I was like, okay, I got to get to all the games. Like I was so excited. And you actually you were actually really good as opposed to someone who had just started. Like had you started at 5, and continued, I mean, I can't even imagine, but you had a great arm. They took you in as a pitcher. Which you followed in your mom's footsteps because I was a pitcher for 1 year in high school. Let's not talk about that. It was really bad. But again, a lot of people said because you had a great arm that they were actually trying to recruit you to football that year, to be quarterback because of your arm. And you're like, nope, absolutely not. So, yeah. So anyways, I, wanted to share after high school, of course you dabbed into college a little bit and you decided, I remember that conversation we had when he told me he wasn't going to go to school and I got upset, right? That's the way I knew how to handle it, right? So I got upset and I was like, Brandon, you got to go to college, because it was embedded in our heads. You got to go to college, you got to get a degree, you got to get a job and all the things. And then you jumped into entrepreneurship at what, 18, I want to say? 18 or 19, right?
Entrepreneurship in what avenue? What avenue?
In the financial industry.
Oh, was it 18? No, I think it was.
Yeah, you were 18 or 19 years old.
No, because I did 2 years. So.
Yes.
I think I got out at 22, so I think I was 20 when I got in. 18, 19, I think I was still at Chipotle.
Okay.
I believe.
Yeah. Well, one of the things I do want to share really quick is how you go out and if there's something that you want, for example, and I share this story with people and I think you should share it, is, every job you've ever applied to, Can you break down your steps on how you get that job? Because I mean, I think what you do is so phenomenal, and I think people would love to know that those steps and how you are successful in it.
Yeah, absolutely. I've thought like plenty of times of making like a short little course for people, because apparently I didn't know people needed a course for it, but like for the simple things of it. But really quick, I mean, how I've always gotten a job and whatnot, and made sure to stand out from everyone else that was applying.
Yes.
Is first and foremost, you of course apply either online or in person, however it is. Most times nowadays it's online. Second most important, which I don't know why people don't take serious, is dress the part and do yourself up. If you're a lady, do your makeup, your hair. Same thing with guys. Do your hair. Make sure you're groomed and all that stuff, and make sure you're in like business casual, or depending on the role. I mean, when I apply to nicer places, I'm in a full blown suit, and so it can never hurt to dress up versus coming in. You don't know how many people I see come into places with like a sweater and a hoodie, and it's like, and not shaved, hair not done. I'm like, how do you expect to get hired if that's how you're showing up? That's first and foremost, is making sure your appearance looks great. Of course, applying. And then what sets you apart across the board is after you do apply, give it about 2 to 3 days and physically go in person with your resume and drop it off with the manager. And the verbiage is, hey, I applied online a couple days ago. Just wanted to drop off my resume with the manager and just kind of introduce myself. And most of the time, unless the manager isn't there, which is rare, but most of the time they'll say, yeah, let me get them for you. And they come up, hi, how are you? I applied online. My name's so-and-so. My name's Brandon. Just wanted to drop off a resume in person and introduce myself. And then sometimes they'll interview you on the spot, or other times they'll be like, oh, thank you. And then they'll reach out to you later. But what that does is you got to picture all the people that are submitting for that specific role, whatever it may be, out of those hundreds or 30 or 40, whatever other resumes, you are one of the few that walked in person and introduced yourself. And now they could put who you are to that resume. They could put a face to it. And on top of that, ton of energy and just lively, like going in and like, so how I would normally do it, like just, hi, my name's Brandon. Just wanted to drop off my resume. I just introduced myself. I applied online a couple days ago, and yeah, I'm just going to go into it. And then from that, and especially if you do get an interview, a lot of energy, a lot of smiling, and then questions. That's really it. But I mean, you got to want it. You got to want to be able to get hired at that job, not just half-assed it. So
right. Yeah.
That's what I'll share.
Good. No, I mean, I tell people all the time, I'm like, my son, every job he's ever applied for, he's gotten it, except one.
Except one. Yeah. 3 separate times. Wait, what? Do you know which one?
I do know which one. It starts with an I. I'm just curious if you want to share it.
In and out. In and out. If you're watching this, what the heck, man? No. Yeah,
I knew you were going to do this.
So, I mean, this was a while ago. Like, I think, I don't remember. The first time I think I applied, it was like my first job ever, I think, applying to, which I was like, okay, heard. And then second time I applied was, I think, after, I don't remember when that second time was, but a third time I applied, I was like, looked like I was going to get it, but a girl I had worked at a previous spot was like, oh, his ex works here and blah, blah, blah. Even though like me and that girl are like, we're super cool. And so I'm like, there was no, whatever, but she ruined it. She ruined my opportunity to work there, but it's all good. Things happen, and where I'm at now, love it. And so
yeah,
happens. But yeah, that's the only place, only place. All good. I could have done it. Yeah, you want a double, no spread, animal style fries with the Sprites? Check that out. Put that on my resume.
This isn't a promo spot either.
Yeah, absolutely not. I don't eat there. Stopped eating there once you denied me. I'm just kidding.
You were there last night.
I was there last night. Wait, how do you know? Oh. I was there. Yeah.
Yeah. You were like, wait, how did you know?
Yeah.
I could track you. one thing about our family is like when I went traveling around the US for 2 months, my mom was so afraid of me. And I was like, Mom, like I'm carefree butterfly. Let me go. And so, but one thing I helped her to feel at ease was I allowed her to track my phone. And so, it's just, to me, I don't care. It's, you know, it's the love that we get from this family, and Brandon's the same way. He's like, yeah, you can track me. I don't care. So we always surprise him every now and then. We're just like, we saw you. And he's like, what do you mean you saw me? Like, how? He's like, oh, he forgets. So the other night I was going to bed. It was late. And I was like, oh, let me see if he's on his way, you know, to his destination. And then I was like, I saw him at In-N-Out. And I'm like, you're at In-N-Out.
I was hungry.
Anyways, okay, let's go. So yes, In-N-Out, you denied him. I think you're going to get free food for life now. Okay, so now you jump into entrepreneurship after what? You're in your 20s. I thought you were 19. But anyways, and then you brought me in, right? Because I was just like looking for something. At the time, I was with American Cancer Society and I loved it, but we were doing 24-hour events and it was just relay events. And it was like, it was taking a toll on my mental health.
Yeah.
And so, so you and I ended up actually going into like business together in a sense. And a lot of personal development came out of it. And what I really noticed is like, it helped shape you in your mindset and in the trajectory of where you were headed in life. And I was so happy for that. And what I can say is like, I'm always grateful for the opportunity of growth. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so share a little bit about how that positions you, you know, into who you are today.
Yeah, no, I mean, it was definitely, I'm always grateful that I had that opportunity and was selling, again, life insurance for 2 years and stuff. And the environment you were in, it was very much of a growth mindset and what are you doing to get better and goal setting and everything. So being in that kind of environment and then also surrounded by a lot of successful people in it, at 20, 21, you start to like get influenced by that. And like they talk about, everyone talks about a lot, is you are the 5 people you hang around with. And I mean, through being in that environment and just growing older and older, I've been very specific on who I choose to be around and who I choose to spend time with, because who you do spend time with does influence you on whether it's your career, whether it's your growth, your next steps, whatever. But I think that played a big role. I'm super grateful for that. Hearing from speakers and the way I carried myself, the way I talked, like you couldn't be a 20, 21-year-old in that environment. Yes, you were, but you started to get shaped into a different person because you were surrounded by a lot of successful people, well-spoken people, and business-minded people. And so that definitely put me on track to be like, okay, this is a great jumping point, and then building off of that. So, it was a great opportunity. That's what sparked it all.
Yeah. So, all of that happened. And then, you know, it was at the end of 2017, we were doing like I forgot what it was called. You remember what it was called? So we were in that company back in 2017 when you got into your car accident.
Yeah. Which was another big change in life. Yeah. Yeah.
So things one of the biggest things that we learned being part of that company was one of the speakers there we went to convention. He said, you know, things happen for you.
Not to you.
Not to you. And so, when Brandon got into his car accident, tell us a little bit about how that happened. Now, did you start really quick? Because you started driving Uber and Lyft just like I did. Before you went there or after you went there? I think it was before, right?
It was around the same time because I was also working at Costco while I was doing life insurance. And then I ended up leaving Costco to go full time. And then I was driving as well, like Uber and Lyft. But yeah, the car accident, basically it was one night we were both coming back from the office late from Ontario to San Gabriel. And I was in my car. My mom was actually in her car, about 2 lanes over, and she was in front of me. And so it was probably about midnight, and driving down. I'm in a Ford Focus, which is a small car, and I'm driving down, and all I see in my rear view mirror is like a bunch of car lights, but way in the distance, like way in the distance. I was like, all right, I have time. Like, I'm just going to keep driving. I'll check back in a little and whatnot. So I'm doing that, and just out of nowhere, like I was probably doing about 70 and probably in like the third lane, and out of nowhere, I get slammed into by a Dodge Durango. Just hardcore. They must have been driving without lights, because I don't know how I did not see that. Like, there's no way. And there was no one else like on those lanes in front of me. It wasn't like a busy freeway. It was an empty freeway, and this person slams into me. Probably at about, for how hard he hit me, the cops and everyone were saying probably about 100 is what he hit me at. So hit me. I started spinning across the freeway like fast, like super fast. I mean, yeah, it's pretty crazy to think about like surviving that, but it hit me. I was spinning, and the only two things that went through my head, one, when I got hit, I was like, is this really happening? Like, what the heck? And then I was spinning, and I was holding the wheel, and the only two things I was thinking about was, I want this car to stop as soon as possible, because I don't want to get hit by a second car. That would suck. And then two, I don't want the car to flip. And so that's all that was going through my head. It was like, boom, holding on to it, spinning. And then my car ended up, the nose of it was touching the center divider that separates the two freeways. Yeah. And so the back end of it was sticking into the carpool lane. And so I got out, and it was cold and whatnot. I had a sweater in the trunk, and I was like, well, can't get that because that's smashed in. Wasn't sure if my mom saw any of that or whatnot. And I actually noticed her. She was parked down, or she stopped, but a little down the way. And I was calling her, and I called her probably about like 8 times. She didn't answer, but I guess because she was on the phone with 911, letting them know what happened. From her point of view, what she was saying is all she saw was smoke go up, and then my car disappeared. Like, she didn't see it. And so
I saw you spinning.
You saw the spinning?
I saw you spinning.
I was freaking flying across that thing. And so
I could not believe what was happening. Yeah.
So I was flying across that, and then his car actually went off the freeway into a wall, and so he couldn't go anywhere. So I was like, okay. And then at first, again, it was an empty freeway. What I had thought was, okay, I'll just run across the freeway and get to the other side so I can connect with her and see, hey, what's happening. But all I can think about was running across. And again, this guy just hit me probably with no lights. There could be another person driving, no lights. So all I could think about is I can make it across a lot of these lanes. But the last lane is what I was fearful of, like that slow lane, because who knows if I get it there and there's just like that, that's it basically. And so I didn't do that. I just got out of the car, stood away from my car, just in case someone else didn't see it, and just waited. And I think 30 minutes later, cops showed up, stopped the freeway. And then the cops had the audacity to look at me and go, because the wheels were stuck and they were trying to push it off the freeway. They look at me and go, "Are you going to help us push it or what?" And I was like,
"Are you serious?" I do not remember that.
I go, "Yeah, I mean, I guess, yeah." And so, I mean, I obviously had just been hit. And so I'm pushing it off the freeway while the cars are stopped and everything. And then the guy sitting outside of his car, his face was all bloodied and stuff. So I'm sure he hit his face. Ended up being a drunk driver, by the way, a 27-year-old drunk driver. And the firefighters showed up, everyone showed up, and they're like, "How you doing?" I'm like, "I'm good." I'm just like, I just need a stretch and everything. I'm like, he looks pretty beat up. You can go take care of him. And that's it. But that was that experience.
Yeah. That was a parent's worst nightmare. I remember that, you were spinning out next to me, and I saw you. Because it was weird, because everything happened so fast. Like, I got a ding on my phone, which alerted me to look down. And then I heard like a pop, some type of like clap, like, and I was like, "What's that?" And I looked up, and like you said, when I got on the freeway, same thing. The lights were all the way in the back. There was nothing coming. So him and I both jumped on the freeway at the same time. I went first, and then he went second, and you went to the side of me like you normally do. Yeah. And so it just happened so fast. And then when I saw you, I looked to the left. After I heard that pop, I looked in my mirror. It was black. It was like no car lights, nothing. It was black. And I looked and you were spinning out next to me. So imagine seeing your child spinning out next to you. It was just, and I just remember like, all I did was pray. I talked to God and I was like, please let him be okay. And as I was shaking and getting over to the side to park, and I called 911, like I remember my hands shaking like crazy and I couldn't dial. And I was telling them my son's been hit, you know, and this and that. And I was trying to give them the like where I was, and yeah. Anyways, yes, that'll send us into complete PTSD again, and I don't want to go through that route. But I'm just grateful, obviously, that, you know, nothing happened. I mean, you went through a lot of, you know, therapy. Yeah, you had to go through chiropractor and you had to go through that. But this is the story that leads you into your spiral of depression. And so share more about how that all affected you in that process.
Yeah. So from the accident, I wasn't driving to work anymore, or the sales, the life insurance, which was in Ontario, because I didn't want to be behind the wheel. I was like, I'm good. Yeah. Like I had so much anxiety, like so much to the point where I looked like Edward Scissorhands. Like my hands would cramp up like this. Like I kid you not, you couldn't like move them. They were cramped up, both hands. I would sweat. It sucked. Like I think it lasted for about like 3 years, like solid. And it sucked because it was interrupting my day to day things I wasn't afraid of anymore, such as growing up, I was afraid of roller coasters. I didn't want to get on a roller coaster just because of the restraint of you being strapped in. And I'm like, well, what if I want to get out? Like, who wants to get out mid roller coaster? But I'm like, what if I freak out? Like I'm stuck. So I was fearful of that. I didn't want to fly because another thing, I'm closed in. I can't leave when I want to leave. So I think that came from a sense of not being able to run across that freeway because I felt trapped on that side. But I didn't drive for a while. And then when I did get a car, it was still hard to drive. Like I would be taking deep breaths, and it still affects me till this day, but I'm a lot better. Like I'm able to do the drives, I fly, I get on roller coasters, I do all that stuff, but I don't have the whole like hands tensing up and stuff like that. Yeah. Which is great. And the thing that affects me still is just like my back, like my mid to upper back. Like that's why every now and then, like see me go like this and just to stretch it out. So yeah, that still affects me. But like when I think about it, I can complain about that and be like, oh, I wish it didn't happen. But I mean, I'm glad that this is all I walked away with. Right. Like from that kind of, like the tow truck driver, the police were like, most people die from that kind of hit. And I'm like, well, I'm thankful that I didn't, that I'm still here and stuff. So if I got to deal with some back pain and to be able to walk away from that without any breaks or fractures or major injuries, then I'm grateful and thankful for that. But what dropped me into the depression is I didn't work for about 2 months. So I was home every day for 2 months. And I already knew this was going to put me in a depression. Because your car was totaled. Because it was totaled. Yeah, there's no way. Like I couldn't drive that, nor did I want to drive. Right. But so I didn't work. And the 2 months I was there, I knew it was going to put me in a depression because, I mean, being locked inside, going nowhere, like you're just sitting in your own thoughts all day. You're not feeling like you're getting ahead anywhere. And so I knew I needed to get myself out of it, and I knew how to do it. But I was like, all right, well, I'll wait 1 more week and whatnot. So it took about 2 months. Then I applied to Nordstrom's, getting a job, and I was still a little depressed in the first couple of weeks. But then after that, it started to go away. I started to get my life back because now I was doing emotion again. And I started to get better that route. And that was a short drive from home and stuff. But the anxiety, depression, that all came from that car accident. But getting a job and getting out of the house is what helped me kind of like get back on track.
Because you got to like associate with people. You got to kind of get your personality back, you know, because so many people understood and knew your personality. I mean, every time you meet people, you know, it's like when they get to know you, they just absolutely love you. I mean, people that have never met you are like, I love him. And it's like, I get messages all the time. Like when I was sharing about today's episode and like, I can't wait to watch. And, you know, I love your son. He's so great. I love your relationship. So it's nice. You know, if you haven't met my son yet, he's a phenomenal person. And, yeah, you'll. So anyways, we're going to talk a little bit about your show. So we all get to push him on this. So he launched a podcast a while back called Embrace the Journey, which was amazing. Mm-hmm. And you had, you know, phenomenal guests on, you know, to share their journey and so forth. But then, you know, you stopped and, you know, I get it. We start something and sometimes we stop it. And, you know, we don't realize that it actually affects it, you know, the growth of that opportunity when you stop it. So something's transitioned for you. And what made you stop that show and now want to create a new one?
So I started Embrace the Journey, which was a podcast back then. It still is on YouTube and everything like that during kind of pandemic times. And the premise of it was called Embrace the Journey because I wanted to interview people from all walks of life to share their journey, their path, and all that kind of stuff. So it was fun. The reason it stopped is because it was just taking so much time to do all the back work as far as like the editing and stuff. Like editing takes like hours. And so I was just running out of time and then booking guests and then I started working more and it's just like, I just ran out of time. So that show stopped and then I ended up changing the name to the Brandon Kamei Show, which is my name. And the reason I changed it was because I was like, well, what if I want to do something different and something else other than just the journey, which come to find out, it's still going to be somewhat about the journey. But I've narrowed it down now to interviewing actors, performers, content creators, and people who are going into a field that's very competitive, very much not guaranteed, but it's very much a mix between the entrepreneur and the dreamer of wanting to pursue a passion and live that dream, hopefully, through being able to make money doing your passion. So I find it interesting to hear different people's story, their perspective, their process, their background on pursuing that. So now it's called Brandon Kamei Show. I released 2 episodes and then it took another pause. Why? Because I moved out of the place that I was filming it in. And so I'm in the process right now of moving back into another place. And so once I do that, then everything will commence on that. And yeah, that's what it shall be.
I'm excited. That's great. I mean, so many people are just like, this kid needs to have his own show. He needs to be on TV. Why are they not hiring him? So
start. That's why I gotta start.
You gotta start. You gotta just show up and start, you know?
Show up to blow up.
That's right. So I love that. I just wanted to check really quick. I was checking our time and then of course my notes. So one of the things, like obviously the show is called Your Health Matters. And
yes, let's talk about it.
Hold on.
Let's
Hold
talk
on.
about it.
I have a story first, you guys. Stop it with your guns. It's the gun show. Okay, enough. You're crazy. So I have to share with you all first because so my son comes and tells me, he goes,
Health is wealth.
Health is wealth, absolutely. And he shares with me the other day because he's flying at different places to rent, and he goes to meet this renter, the owner of this property that he's going to rent, and they start asking him questions, right?
Oh my goodness.
We got to share this story. Because,
I was being honest with the guy.
Okay, yes.
Come on.
But, so you got to realize, like, the type of conversations that, like, millennials and Gen X, people know, they may not know. So this was a good one. Like, okay, well, for example, the one time my son and I were in Hollywood one time, and he happened to see the Capitol Records building. And he goes, Mom, is that where you get your birth certificate? That's Capitol Records. That's where they do producing of music. And so anyway, so again, things that they may not know. Well, this was classic. So I have to share. Anytime my son does something like this, I have to share. So he goes, yeah, so he's asking me questions, about like who I am.
A little background. It's
little
me
background.
touring places to live, like a new place for me to rent out. So the owner,
Tell him what you said.
The owner of the place is asking me just a bunch of different things. What do you do? I'm like, I serve and bartend, blah, blah, blah. He's like, okay, well, since you're a bartender, do you drink a lot or do you party a lot? And I go, I was so happy to share this because I'm like, I'm a bartender. So yes, I go out and have drinks with friends or wine. I love wine. But I decided to challenge myself and go 6 months without alcohol, which I'm 2 months in right now.
No, you did not say that.
Hold on. Is this your show? Or is this
It is my show.
Welcome back to the Brandon Kamei Show, and we're back. And so, it's my show. So I go, yeah. So he goes like, oh yeah. So do you drink or this? And I go, actually, I'm 2 months sober. I go, I'm trying to go for 6 months, but it's hard, man. It's really hard. So I was just so happy. I was like, I'm going to share it too. But I didn't even think about it. Yeah, 2 months sober. I was like, no, I didn't have like an addiction, but it was just me challenging myself to not drink. So I was like, how else do you say it? I'm like, I should have just said, yeah, no, I don't drink.
I don't drink. I haven't been drinking for 2 months, but
2 months sober.
He didn't understand. Where that came out was like, yeah, I'm 2 months sober. But I said, no, you can't really say you're sober because you
What the
weren't.
hell with this place? I'll be 4 months sober, if you know what I mean. After that, man, it's parties on parties. I'm going to go through a case a night.
I go, if you say, you pretty much said, I'm 2 months sober because I was an alcoholic, but I'm going for 6 months, so we'll see.
Betty Boo, she took the kids. I just come home and have a drink.
So I was like, honey, you can't say you're sober. Like you never had a problem. But anyway.
Yeah.
So he didn't get that. He goes, Mom, remember the place I told you about? He goes, I didn't get that one. I'm like, you think?
Yeah. You went with a PhD student. I was like, yeah, but...
Yeah, well, because,
I have a PhD, too, a pretty huge desire to drink.
He did not. Oh, my goodness.
But, yeah,
So, let's talk about your health matters. Tell us about your journey of not drinking for the past 2
side? Or would you like to start on this side?
Stop showing your guns, okay? We get it.
Progress. No, okay. You want me to share?
Yeah, so actually, I don't know if you'll talk about this, but I do want to share. Remember when you went to a doctor and the doctor told you stay away from sugar, lead, alcohol?
Dermatologist?
Yes, remember? So share that story first.
Yeah, so I went to a dermatologist because every now and then I get like eczema. I've had that since birth. And so I went to him to kind of see like, hey, how can I get rid of this? And he basically shared, well, you got to stay away from bread, gluten, alcohol, sugar, blah, 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 all this other stuff. And I went home and I was like, yeah, I'm not doing that. And then I was like, dude told me to stay away from happiness. I was like, what are you talking about? I'm not staying away from, okay, just stay away from deep breaths. Like, right? And so I'm like, no. So I didn't do that. But circle back around health. I'm going to give you a quick little breakdown of it all. Basically, I had an epiphany, and I was like, I've seen videos before where it's like a 50-year-old or a 60-year-old guy or lady, and they're just like, I have more energy now than I did in my 20s. And they're like, I can outrun all these kids, and I can outperform and all this stuff. And I go, I've seen those videos, and I'm like, how can I get that energy, but right now? And so I thought about it. I'm like, it's got to come down to working out, and it's got to come out to diet for sure. So little by little, I started incorporating different things into my life. And I tell people, in regards to eating food or wanting to be, it's not a diet. It's just changing the way you live, basically, on what you consume, watching certain things. It's got to be convenient. It's got to taste good for you.
Right.
And you got to have some kind of schedule and structure towards it. But so I started to do a lot of research on different healthy things. And another big thing is if you're incorporating things into your life, incorporate it little by little. Don't try to grab everything and throw it at once. Why? Because you're not going to stick to it. Allow yourself to build off 1 to 2 habits until it becomes a habit, and then introduce something new. So one of the first things, and I did a lot of research on gluten and bread and all that stuff. And there would be people I'd be serving who had a gluten allergy. And I would ask them. And she's like, yeah, I didn't always have a gluten allergy, but now I do this and this. I go, I got to ask you. So from not having gluten, what are the benefits that you've seen? And she's like, better digestion. She's like, no more bloating. She goes, headaches have basically gone away. I don't get headaches. And I go, that's really interesting. She's like, I have better clarity. And I was like, those are all things I would like. Then there was a doctor I follow on YouTube, and you can go check him out. His name's Dr. Eric Berg. He shares a lot of good stuff, a lot of informative stuff. So he was talking about bread and gluten and all these things. And he basically said, try it out for a week with no bread, right? No gluten. And then do another week with eating it all and seeing how your body feels on both days, on both weeks. So I went a week without bread. And I was like, this feels great. And I was like, I don't think I need to try a week with bread. I'm like, I've had my whole life with bread. Growing up in a household with my mom, it's sandwiches. If you don't eat a sandwich, you're not eating. So it was sandwiches, it was bread. I was going through packets of bread a week. But on to the important stuff. So, I've had enough bread. So I've been, in the last year, I haven't had bread. Like, I've had bread maybe 5 times on different occasions, but just because I was in a situation where I'm like, all right, I'll have the bread, fine. But other than that, in the year, I've had it like 5 times, and I choose not to have bread. That's what I've noticed is no bloating, better digestion, headaches little to none, better clarity, feeling less lethargic. So the pros outweigh me wanting to indulge in a little bread. I love the way it makes me feel. So I'm like, great, I don't do bread. Then I introduced intermittent fasting, and I did that for a year. That felt great. I'm about to start a new whole workout regimen with a nutrition plan, so I may start incorporating breakfast and not doing the intermittent fasting, but I incorporated that. Another thing I pay attention to, which is huge, I pay attention to my sugar intake. Sugar, as we know, you can look at all the different harms that sugar does, but a little study I did just to get a visual cue for me is if you look at orange juice or if you look at Coke, I mean, a bottle of Coke is like 65 grams of added sugar, which is insane. What I want you to do, a little test for you, I would recommend doing with Coke because you would see more of it, or even orange juice as well, because it's what a lot of people like to drink in the morning, orange juice, right? So look at the back of it, look at the measuring amount, the serving size of whatever it is, however many tablespoons or whatever. Take that same amount of total added sugar, get sugar, physical sugar, pour it into it, and then pour it into a cup, and into a glass cup. And just see, so you can visually see how much sugar that is. And now say you had 2 of those servings, pour double the amount, and you will see how much sugar. And it's like, that's insane. So I watch my sugar intake. I always look at packages, and I'm like, how much sugar is this? And I'm like, I'd rather not. Like, I don't need to have that, and I'll find different alternatives or whatnot. But sugar intake has been huge. I take vitamins. I incorporated vitamins. I take vitamin C, fish oil, B complex, vitamin D3 plus K2, which is in 1. And yeah, those are what I take for vitamins. Now, I mean, I've felt great. And then on top of that, I've been sober for 2 months. No drinking. Sober, baby. But, yeah, and I've felt great from that. And the reason I stopped with that is because, again, yes, I am a bartender, and I do go out and have drinks and stuff, and I love red wine. But it got to a point where I would make it a habit where when I would get off, I would go home, I would have a glass of wine or 2, whatever, or a bottle, and I'm just kidding, and eat some food. But it was starting to be like 5 days out of the week, right? Which I'm like, this is not good. And I'm like, I would wake up, I'm like, I feel tired, I don't want to go to the gym. And so I started slacking off on different areas of my life. And this is a podcast about getting better and growing as a person. So there are sacrifices you have to make. And so I said, you know what? Let me challenge myself. Let me go a month without drinking. And then as that month went on, I was like, let me go. I just shot for the stars. I was like, let me go a year. And then I was like, all right, maybe not a year. Let me go 6 months. And so When I plan to have another glass of wine, which I love wine, will be probably Thanksgiving is when I'll allow myself to have that. But since I'm doing this 6 months sober, I figured why not try to get in the best shape I've ever been. And so I'm at the gym about 5 times a week. I start with a 20-minute Stairmaster, then go into the workout and stuff. But on top of that, I've never been able to, I've been toned and like defined, but I've never been able to see like sharp cuts, like a 6-pack, right? And like, it's a lot of work, it's a lot of dedication, and you got to follow some kind of meal plan, right? I call it meal plan, not diet. Diet, a lot of people are afraid of, oh, diet. Like, no, create something that you like. So since I'm going this time with no drinking, I figured why not introduce a meal plan, and which I got from this trainer I know. She's great. And so once I move into my place, I'm going to incorporate that. I'm going to be taking some other things as well, collagen and stuff like that. And I want to push myself and challenge myself to get in that best shape possible. Why? Because when you're able to do that, when you're able to do the hard things, and when you're able to prove to yourself, dang, like I look good and whatnot, and you're satisfied with how you look, then that challenges you. Okay, you can get that hard thing done. What else can you do in life or in business that may be hard that you can also do? So it's like a reaffirming belief. And yeah, why not try to get in the best shape, especially if I'm not drinking right now? So I've been paying a lot of attention to just the well-being. A lot of people have been getting sick at work, and I've been just staying on top of my vitamins and staying healthy. I'm not drinking, so my immune system has been pretty heightened. So I've been good. I've been lucky to not get sick. And so, yeah, that's that health journey.
There you
Kazam!
go. That's amazing. And I love that he ended with that, because we are wrapping up now.
Thank you so much for joining my show. We'll be back with another great guest. No, I'm just kidding.
Silly. So yes, thank you so much for joining today. If you have any questions for Brandon, please drop them in. We will answer he will answer your questions. If you have any questions for us both, definitely drop them in.
Also, real quick, I mentioned the show, the Brandon Kamei Show, coming to a theater near you soon. Coming to a theater. On top of that, you can follow me on Instagram. Brandon Kamei, Kamei. That's it. Yeah. And you can check me out there too.
Definitely. So everything, all his information will be listed, and definitely follow him. He's funny. He's hilarious. He obviously, you can see, but he has a great show coming, and we look forward to it. The Brandon Kamei Show, it's coming soon, and we'll have him on a future episode again, talking about something else, of course, so he can spread everything about me. And by the way, the sandwiches, I was a single mother working full-time and going to school, so you need to relax.
It was sandwiches and top ramen.
It
was sandwiches and top ramen.
Oh, my goodness.
I was like, what's for dinner today?
Let's not even go there about how he called my mom one time when we were living.
Or deli.
And he called my mom saying we had no food. And, oh, my goodness. I'm like, we have food.
She's
he
like,
just has to make it.
We have cans of tomato sauce in the cabinet. I don't get what he's saying.
Okay, we are done with you.
We have slices of cheese. We have slices of cheese, not string cheese. Sandwich cheese.
Thank you, son.
Make a grilled cheese.
For joining the show today. Remember, you all, you were meant for more. Go out, be amazing. You can get through anything. And we didn't even get to have the opportunity where Brandon jumped into faith. But we will definitely catch him on another show and bring in more of what he has to share. And then obviously his show will be up by then so that he can share more with you all. So thank you all. Have a beautiful day. Know you're blessed and you're loved. Take care.
Peace.
I want to get to know what you do, what inspires you, what you enjoy.
My ability to lead really impacts women on a larger level, because not every woman has the same story or the same journey. So understanding where they've come from and where they want to go helps me be the leader that I can, so that I can show up in a space of authenticity for them.